and that is about, I would say, 50% clogged. Okay, today is the big day, the day we're going to do our engine service before we get going. We changed the oil just 250 hours ago, so we don't actually need to do that. We also changed the diesel filters 300 hours ago. How do I know that? Well, I keep service schedules, and anyone that's got a boat, I suggest you keep a service schedule, write down the part numbers and the date when you changed them, because you will never remember in 6 or 8 months time. We've got our owner's operator's manual here, so we can look up all the settings and all the types of fluids and everything, which we pretty much know anyway, because again that's doubled up on our service schedules. We've got our oil filters. These ones are, this one is genuine, these are pattern parts, these are £16 from Volvo, and these are £4.99 from Tinternet, so that's $7 I guess, compared with $20 odd. And they're probably made in the same factory. They're exactly the same, just a different colour. So we also carry diesel filters. We carry this type of filter, which is the first inline filter that our diesel goes through on the flow side of the pump. A 5 micron filter is that should we get any diesel bug, this will catch it. This will be the first place it catches. This filters, they're a few bucks, a couple of pounds off eBay, and if we have an issue, we can literally look at the filter on a regular basis as part of our engine start checks even, and make sure that there's nothing in it. If there is something in it, we at least know it's been captured in here and not being captured in our main filters. Now, that way we don't have to change our main filters quite as often, hopefully. So we've got a fan belt. I know the fan belt's good, but it's from the spare impeller. In fact, 2 spare impellers there, spare gaskets for them. We have a new air filter, Volvo call it an air filter silencer. We are also going to change our coolant, and that's because we want to change the clean out the heat exchanger. So welcome to our engine bay. This is a Volvo D130F. It's rated at 30 horsepower, which is about 28 kilowatts I believe. This particular engine has a couple of modifications that I've done. The first is that we have our coolant up higher. That helps with bleeding it out. It also makes sure that the heat exchanger is always full of coolant. You don't tend to get any air bubbles with that. And it's not sitting on the front of the engine, because normally they're mounted here and they rattle away, and it quite often breaks the little bracket that they're sitting on. A couple of other things. We have a 130 amp hour alternator on this with a multi V belt, which is this one here. It's been really good. I'm very happy with that. The biggest output we've got from it is about 100 amps when I checked our battery monitor, when we were down to 50% last time we were at anchor. So there's a little bit of movement on the boat, you can probably see, and that's because although we're in the marina, there's a bit of a swell running, but bear with us. So that's the engine. We keep our engine bay really clean. I've got a little GoPro up in here, so that hopefully you can see exactly what we're doing, and we're going to go through things step by step. So before we work on the engine, a couple of things. First thing is I've put my old t-shirt on, my favourite old t-shirt. I've taken our engine schedules out and our general maintenance bits and pieces, which we keep on a shelf up there where the GoPro is, and that's purely so I can mount the GoPro and so that we can show you some of the bits and pieces we keep in there. So before we go any further, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn our main battery off for the engine start battery, and I'm going to take the key out and put it on the chart table. That way I know that the engine is dead, and if I drop a spanner on something, perhaps down by the starter motor, or I catch our charge relays, our charge distributor at the back there with a spanner or a screwdriver, I'm not going to cause a spark. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open the water to our drive leg, which is where our water supply for cooling comes in to the pump. And the reason I'm going to do that is because at the moment the engine has salt water in it where we ran it yesterday, and I want to flush out the whole of the cooling system with clean pure water, not salt water. And then if I do spill any as I take the pipes off, it's just fresh water that's in the bilge and not salt water. It'll be a lot easier to clean up and it won't start destroying things. So I'll open up that valve at the back of the engine, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the raw water strainer filter and check that that's okay, and then I'm going to flush out the system with the engine running so that we have some fresh water where the seawater would be. Okay, so I'll get on with that now. So down the back here you can see this is our raw water intake, and I'm going to open that up. You can see some bubbles come up, and there's a bit of rusty water in there, and we know where that comes from. That comes from here, and this is our raw water strainer, and inside there's a strainer box, and whenever you take that out to clean it, you always get a few drips of salt water that go down the back of the engine that you can't get to, and as much as you try and wipe them off, they always get on something and stain it. So I'm going to open this up now, and then I'm going to show you what we do to back flush the leg into the cooling system rather than salt. So that will be replacing the raw water. So this is always a tight fit. And you can see there some salt crystals formed on the top. And this is our strainer. There's not much in there, but as you can see it drips. You always get one or two drips disappear, and we're going to wash that out and clean it. Yeah. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a hose, and I'm going to put fresh water in here just to fill this up, not right to the brim, but just to back flush. So we just got our fresh water hose now. I'm just going to slowly turn that on, and what I'm actually doing is the end of that hose gun is pointing down the leg. Now you won't be able to fill this up because it's above the water line, and it will drain down. You see it's draining down there. In a moment I'm going to take this hose off of here, which is the feed from the leg, and I'm going to put the end of the hose down there and give it full pressure to clean out anything that's in that raw water. So that's flushed that through, and what's sitting in the hopper now, in the filter, is actually fresh water. So what I'm going to do is I want to take that inlet hose off, and to do that it means that I'm going to put water all down the back of the engine, and I don't really want to do that. So cue our trusty machine shop vac. Let's check. Which does every job on the boat, including pumping up the dinghy or the paddleboard. I can't emphasise enough how important having a shop vac is. Cindy's sitting in the background laughing there, because people laughed at us when we took it with us, and it has been an absolute godsend. So I'm now going to take the water out of that hopper so that I can take that hose off and connect it to the mains and back flush the leg. Right, so the observant among you will see via the GoPro that these two hose clamps, or Jubilee clips as we call them here, are opposed, and that makes the flats on these dig in on different sides of the hose, and ensures that if one clip fails, the other one's still got a bite on there. So that's why that's done. You should have that on all of your seacock hoses from your seacock, where they are below the waterline or very near it. So I'm going to undo this one now and then connect that to the mains hose. And can you see that from here? So the hose is well up out the way. The end of that is going to go in there, and then I'm flushing fresh water. So that's now going down the hose, through the seacock and out the bottom of the leg. And we just wait for Cindy to get the ignition on the two bleeps. So removing the coolant is done through this drain plug. You can see it here on this drawing. It's item number 14. Number 15 is an O-ring. These sometimes get blocked up. You may have to blow through it after removing it. The GoPro's quite getting that. Twist and pull. Off she comes. Should we take that out of the way? It'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it? Yeah, they're all gummed up with paint. There we go. Aha! And that is about, I would say, 50% clogged. So we are going to have to take it out, but it's, yeah, I would say probably somewhere between 40 and 50% of those holes are clogged. So that's the end of our heat exchanger there. I've taken that O-ring out off of this end, and we need to take the whole of that matrix out to clean it properly. We could use a dowel to push and clean it out, but I don't think it's going to do the job properly. We just have to be very careful of these bronze pieces and the O-rings there, which assemble and keep them watertight. So I'll take the back off, which is exactly the same as the front, apart from we have the exhaust injection manifold on there, but I'll do that off camera, and I'll show you when we get it out. There's a close-up of the front end. You can see that, and that is a close-up of the back end. Look. So there we are, ready for the muric acid. Gloves, safety squints, leather galoshes and a welding visor. Well, not welding visor. And here's our muric acid ready to go on. I'll just start that now. Flipping gloves, you can't work in them.
Better not have any hands.
It's not that strong actually. So there we are, all washed off, cleaned out. See right through it now. So I'll put some light behind it. They're all nice and clean, ready to go back in again. So here's the parts that we've cleaned up. Yes, I am in the kitchen, and that is Cindy's new towel roll that I made to match her spice rack. Anyway, getting back to parts. So I have put back the O-ring on there. We've cleaned that up, cleaned the O-ring up. You don't actually need new O-rings, just soak them in warm soapy water and then rinse them off. So that O-ring goes on there, and of course that's the front. This O-ring slides down over there and into that position there, and gets clamped against that plate there. and the back then has an O-ring inside it in there, if you can see that one, which we've taken out, cleaned up, put back in. And that's how you can tell the back from the front. Now they have different part numbers. The back part number ends in 156 and the front in 155, so P21155, and that's the front. So just an important note here, the rear cover has a weep hole in one side between the two O-rings. If one of the O-rings leaks, water will weep out of here slowly. Let's just gently one of those bolts in there just to line everything up. Now that little hole I showed you in the end cap earlier is so that if that O-ring fails, you get coolant coming out that little hole as a telltale, much the same as your water pump, like so. Use the nut to locate it. I'm going to put all three of those nuts in now because we need to draw that end in. So I'm not going to tighten those up yet. Now I'm going to take the front nut out. That's better. I'll just put those three in there. Right. Okay. So we just whiz these in till they're finger tight. So that's the exhaust manifold back on, the end cap back on, and the elbow hose back on. These are tightened up, the front's on. Make sure you put that up the right way. Did I say that before? So the front cap up the right way, and we can now, I'm not going to put the air cleaner back on for the moment because what I want to do is I want to clean out that, which is our anti-siphon valve, so that all of our cooling is dealt with in one fell swoop. So here we are in the last stages now. All of the hose clips or Jubilee clips have been turned so that they're easy to undo next time. We've put the tie wrap back on there, and I haven't painted that, but I will do. All of these hoses are back on, all fixed up. I've left the top off of here, and I'll show you why I'm going to do that. So the mix here is 60-40. I've already put about a litre in. I'm just going to fill this up now nice and slowly. I'll leave that a few minutes. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prime our raw water strainer so that it's full of water and we don't run the pump dry for the raw water. Another tip, whenever you're doing anything up which is plastic with a thread or self-tappers even, you know, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, but before you put it on, actually turn it anti-clockwise or to the left until it clicks, and when it clicks, like that, the thread is engaged. You can do that with screws, nuts, bolts, especially on plastic, because you can damage the threads very easily. So that just goes down finger tight, I can see the O-ring round there is under compression. Okay, so I'm now going to open up the seacock. And we're going to start the engine without the air filter on and just check we haven't got any leaks. Okay, mademoiselle, if you'd like to start the engine. Yeah, and I've double checked everything. There's no nuts and bolts left over, so I must have it right. Ah, hang on. You won't be able to do anything. I've made a schoolboy error. Okay, contact. So we've run it now for, oh sorry, that noise you can hear in the background is the aircon running because it's a really warm day again. But we've run the engine now for 30 minutes in gear at 1500 RPM, no leaks. I've wiped down the inside of the engine bay with a little bit of thinness, some acetone, just to clean all the mucky finger marks off and what have you, and that's it. Hi folks.
Hi.
Us again. Well, I hope you enjoyed that movie on maintenance. That was our heat exchanger. We've got some more footage in the can, as they say, on engine maintenance, and we'll put those out over the next couple of days. But the good news, cross fingers, hold thumbs, is
Hold thumbs? Never heard that one before.
Yeah, they do that up to north.
Oh, okay.
We have some good news that we are possibly going to be allowed to sail within the province out to the islands of Ponza and around there in just about a week's time. So we're now frantically getting ready that we have a date, and we will be able to include some sailing footage.
Just be so good to get out.
It's so good to get out on the water, absolutely. So we've noticed that about 50% of people that watch our videos aren't actually subscribed. So down here somewhere there is a subscribe button and a bell button, and if you hit both of those you'll be able to watch our videos and get notifications, and it's free to do so. It doesn't cost you any money, you just register and blah de blah.
A big shout out to our Patreons. Thank you so very much. Without your contribution this would not be sustainable.
It wouldn't be sustainable, and so thanks very much to you guys here. We will see you next week, and hopefully in about a week and a half's time we'll be able to get some sailing footage out. So for now folks, it's
Sail safe.
sail safe
And stay safe.
and stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.